The next poem by Thomas Lodge, bottom of 513, pluck the fruit and taste the pleasure. Okay, come on. Carpe diem. I haven't even read the poem, and I know that's where we're headed. And it's a plain style poem. Whereas I'd say Folk Gravel's a little more ornate, a little bit more willing to aim at beauties. Here we have directness. Pluck the fruit and taste the pleasure. Um, and then we have a chorus, right? We have these different stanzas. We have 4 different stanzas, and we sort of have a chorus that alternates or shifts. After death, when you are gone, joy and pleasure, is there none? Okay, while you're alive, you got to go for pleasure and joy, because after death, there isn't any. Okay, and as it goes through it, and it walks you through this in various ways. It's basically it's repeating the same thing 4 times, but come on, isn't that what happens on most radio? In that sense. And so, sport it freely 1 to 1. After death is pleasure none. After death, when we are gone, joy and pleasure is there none. I mean, what a downer, but at least that's 2 lines emphasizing death and loss, and 4 lines about, well, while we're alive, we can appreciate this, and we can appreciate this, and you can appreciate, food and joy and love, that sort of thing. Okay. I'm going to skip the next poem by Lodge and go to Henry Constable. Okay. So there's a really good note here about the sequence title, From Diana. And so Diana is the chaste hunter goddess of classical mythology. This is the note at the bottom of page 515. And it emphasizes there that, if you're chasing Diana, I mean, at least in mythological terms, you're never going to get her. No one ever gets her. And in fact, mythologically, mortals who've seen her naked, bathing in a stream after a hunt, her dogs tear them apart. So in a certain way, he's signaling, I may be chasing love, but I'm never going to catch love. Okay, so it's sort of I think of Wyatt's poems of like, I never succeed. Though he once did. That's Wyatt. Here, it's a little different. And the Delia poems by a different poet, I think Samuel Daniel. Delia, it turns out, if you read the note, I had to read the note. I didn't know this. I forgot it. Is another name for Diana. And so that same idea, the chaste hunter goddess of, mythology, Roman mythology, you're not going to get her. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So, Constable likes paradoxes and contraries going back and forth. In Decade 4, Sonnet 1, there's this idea that he can't leave, he can't quit love because he is love. And just at the end, you're not just beautiful, you are beauty itself. And if you think about this, right, it's a way of saying, like, I'm not in love, I am love. Okay. And you're not just beautiful. You're not beautiful. You are beauty itself, right? There's this trying to raise both players in this, the speaker and the spoken to, as what? Greater entities, symbols of these things. And it starts off with this idea that, well, I'll leave it there. I'll leave that one there. Let's go to Decade 6, Sonnet 2. Okay, still on page 515. And this one, you might remember Wyatt's I Find No Peace poem from page 122 and 123. And you could see how over time the poets are taking the same theme and doing things a little differently. Okay, now one thing I like about this one is, grammatically speaking, Decade 6, Sonnet 2 is all one sentence, okay? Because it's using semicolons, which sends us, a semicolon in this case, since it's not a list, it is marking a strong grammatical stop. We could have a period, but having a semicolon, which I always think of as a period and a comma, it means we stop, but we keep going. Everything is related. Okay. Page 515. To live in hell and heaven to behold, to welcome life and die a living death, to sweat with heat and yet be freezing cold, to grasp at stars and lie the earth beneath. Okay, so he's describing a paradoxical situation, right, of opposites all at once. But saying I feel opposite ways is a lot less vivid than to live in hell and heaven to behold, to welcome life and die a living death. Okay, I'm in hell, but I can see heaven. I'm dying, you know, I'm alive, and yet I feel like I'm dying. Okay, we have that. To tread a maze that never shall have end, to burn in sighs and starve in daily tears, to climb a hill and never to descend, giants to kill and quake at childish fears. To pine for food and watch the Hesperian tree, to thirst for drink and nectar still to draw, to live accursed, whom men hold blessed to be, and weep those wrongs which never creature saw. If this be love, if love in these be founded, my heart is love, for these in it are grounded, firmly fixed. Now the notes, the side notes of the glosses, and the bottom footnotes are all useful here. And we have to learn the idioms, and these were poets who were well trained in these references to mythology. That's a whole separate category of activity. But notice we have all of these lines setting up these contrary things, to be in a maze, but it doesn't have an end. To climb a hill, it doesn't have an end, right? Things like that. And then the rhetorical shift to, if this be love, if love in these be founded. Okay, now, so if this situation being, hot and cold, hell and heaven, right? If all this is true and constitutes what love is, if you were to stop before the last line, you might think, oh, he's probably going to say, well, forget that. I don't want to be in love. It's hell. I mean, to be caught like that. It's not, but instead, my heart is love, for these in it are grounded. It's like, this is my experience, these contraries. And so this is what love is. And again, part of what I was saying a little earlier, about 25 minutes earlier, is this idea of these poems of love trying to talk about how love works. Okay, I'm just going to do a little bit more. Samuel Daniel, okay, poet, playwright, historian, translator. He was probably all of those things, because if he hadn't been, he would have starved to death. Okay, so we have one of this professional writer who's working in multiple genres. Okay, from Delia, and notice the first line: if this be love, right? And again, that echoes through it, right? This is number 9. If this be love, to draw a weary breath, etc. If this be love, to war against my soul. If this be love, and then we get to the end. If this be love, to live a living death, oh, then love I and draw this weary breath. It's almost as if Constable and Daniel were having a contest on the same theme. And that would be part of the fun of it. And it wasn't considered plagiarism to pick up another poet's sort of conceit, the idea, the joke, the twist, and try to run with it and do it another way. So we have, and again, it might feel a little repetitive, but to me, I enjoy the differences as well as the similarities between these poems. Okay, now 32 and 33 are in order from the original sequence. So the sequence was multiple sonnets in a row, and in this way you can see how it can work between 32 and 33, because if you look at the last line of 32, when once they find her flower, her glory pass, when men shall find thy flower, thy glory pass. So it's that picking up that line and taking the thought to another stage. Okay, so in 32, there's this now and then. Okay, and the backstory, it seems here, is that Delia does not love Samuel, and he's pointing out that You might be in May, you might be in springtime. It's not going to last. And you know what? You're going to fade, and men are not going to appreciate you. They might remember your beauty of the past, but that's not going to be enough for the average man, for men in general, for men. Okay. What a bummer of a poem, huh? It's like, hey, I love you. This is what's basically, I love you, but you know what? You're going to get old, and you're going to wish you loved me. That's where we're headed to for 32, 33. So 32 is the point is, you need to pay attention because, if you don't carpe diem, well, it doesn't matter. You could carpe diem, but you're still going to fade. You're still going to decay. Then in 32, it's like, but I appreciated you. When men shall find thy flower, thy glory pass, and thou with careful, sorrowful, full of care, careful brow sitting alone, received hast this message from thy glass, the mirror, that tells thee truth and says that all is gone. Okay, when you get to the point where you realize that, wow, you've lost your bloom, you are past it. Okay, now you're going to think of me. Fresh shalt thou see in me the wounds thou madest. Some of you are going to remember that you hurt me. You hurt me. Though spent thy flame, you've decayed. You don't have the feeling. In me the heat remaining. I that have loved thee thus before thou fadest, my faith shall wax, shall grow, when thou art in thy waning. Okay, all those other men are going to see that you've lost your bloom. I recognize that you've lost your bloom, but I still love you. Okay, and it goes on there, and also, you'll be less, but I'll love you more, and you'll regret you scorned me before. Okay, psychologically speaking, this does not seem, this may be true to a particular human being, not me, but oh man, can you imagine these two people, the thou, the woman, and or the person, the beloved, and the speaker of the poem across a kitchen table, day after day, year after year? You're going to feel sorry. I mean, I feel there's baggage and resentment, but baggage and resentment are part of the language of an experience of love. And so we have it being captured here. We don't have these airy sort of, I love you forever. And, we actually have somebody who's sort of like, you didn't appreciate me. I mean, I still love you, but man, you should have appreciated me. Yikes. But isn't that, I hope you're not in that situation either way, but I've known people in this regard. Okay. I'll say this about Michael Drayton. He starts off in his idea, page 518, and these aren't love poems. These are lust poems. These are party poems. I'm a libertine. I live the free life. And again, he's trying to do a shift. And with Drayton, we're a lot closer to Shakespeare's abilities with it. But Drayton has got an ugly edge to him that you'll never find in Shakespeare. Okay. He wants to talk about ugliness. He wants to say, I can make you immortal in verse. And Shakespeare will take that up, but, this is number 6, but there's a rudeness to it. Let me do this one. Okay. So these are these non-love poems. So he's trying to be anti-formulaic. He's this libertine. And in, say, for example, well, number 5 is very much like a riddle. It can be fun. And obviously the fun is having this riddle with this, the I, the letter I, as the note will tell you, is also, because of sound, AYE, the I of yes. Okay, and you have a yes and no poem, but also a self, an I, and thou poem going on here. So there's riddles and the fun of it. Shakespeare does some sonnets like this where he makes jokes about the word will, which is his name, William Shakespeare. It is also your vigor, sexual vigor, but also your just general energy. And it's also like the thing you plan to do, what you will, what you wish, that sort of thing. Okay, but going back to Drayton, I mean, look at number 6 on page 518. How many paltry, foolish, painted things that now in coaches trouble every street shall be forgotten whom no poet sings, ere they be well wrapped in the winding sheet. Okay, he's pointing to the ladies in the coaches who are wearing makeup. He calls them paltry, foolish, painted things. That's harsh. He's, and so this is going to come into a poem. It starts with the idea no poet sings, but I'm going to sing you. And that could be a very generous sort of a statement. And Shakespeare will do one of these, and I'll talk about that when we get to Shakespeare. But, you're lucky that I'm going to write a poem about you is part of the emphasis in this one. But also, look at these. I mean, frankly, I wouldn't trust somebody. Okay, the parallel to me is if you call women a thing, if I were a woman, if you call other women things, I wouldn't necessarily trust you. Okay, this came out with, I remember years ago when I was teaching the English 90s and 92s, 93s. I often had female students who would come up because we'd read lots of things about life experiences, etc. And they would offer each other dating advice, which was don't trust a guy who doesn't treat his mother or his sister well, because he's not going to treat you well. Okay. That's the thing about things, right? I mean, if you got someone who's reducing people to things, that's kind of dangerous. Now, again, it's meant to be a satiric edge, but to me, it goes with other poems. I mean, number 8 is a very ugly poem in which he's just relishing this idea of, when you are, basically number 8, page 519, there's nothing grieves me but that age should haste, that in my days I may not see thee old. It's like, you know what? I really don't want to see you get old, because, boy, you're going to wither and you're going to be ugly. And he spends, 11 of these lines describing just how ugly you're going to be. Now, imagine being the person it's addressed to. It's like, don't do me no favors, pal. But again, this is a recognizable human being. These are recognizable human thoughts. And not that I want to go to the ugly, but this ugliness one, some people I know, I have a friend who really likes this poem. He's like, oh man, it nails it. It nails it, he says. Okay. For me, what I'm thinking about is I appreciate Shakespeare being able to go to the same areas, but not be so harsh, to be somebody I'd rather spend time with, as well as other Daniel. Daniel is much nicer. Now, I'm not saying you have to be nice, okay? Rude, mean, edgy poetry can be a lot of fun. I just don't want to live there forever, okay? Alrighty. So, we're not done with Elizabethans, but I'm gonna put the rest of the poets here in a separate thing. This went on a lot longer than I thought. I hope it didn't seem as rambling, because I tried to do this as I would a lecture in class, going step by step by step. And I'm not going, I hope it's helpful, and I'll get back to you with more. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope you're all well.